right. Shout out to the fam. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're now rocking with the Sports Coma with BigQ and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fam. Shout out to you guys on the stream. Much love to the fam. Appreciate y'all, and appreciate y'all in terms of the donations. A lot of the family members and the promotion of the show. I thank you. Shout out to our Patreon members, our YouTube membership channel, participants, as well as the mighty supporters of the Who Dat Nation and the Great Saint Think Tank. So big ups to all you guys. In this installment, man, listen, Hump Day edition of the Coma coming at you with several news notes and items as we are officially in our off season for the New Orleans Saints, as we gear up, and it's evaluation time right now for the team, looking at what it needs to do as we prepare for free agency, as we get ready for the draft. What do the Saints have to do to make this team go from 6-11 to double-digit wins to get in the playoffs, or perhaps not even that? You know, could we do a 2 to 3 game improvement? Most certainly, the Miami Dolphin game would have been a game we'd have won. A couple other games we should have had in the bag, but how can we have a 3 to 4 game improvement to kind of verify us making the bump, or the jump rather, to get back to the playoffs and control the NFC South? We know that the Carolina Panthers backed in to the playoffs and back right on out. So, you know, they fought their asses off. I ain't gonna give them slack on that, but they backed on in and just back right on out. But that's all right, man. We are in this situation where we know what we need to do to improve the team. We're looking at the offense, we're looking at the defense. Special teams definitely need improvement there as well. But we'll take a look at some articles of discussion to talk about the defense, the offense, and we will span the gambit. So y'all lock y'all selves in and get ready for the show. Y'all hit that like button, hit the sub button, and the notification bell. This is brought to you by FanDuel. So check out FanDuel, get your bets in for the playoffs and all the other things that's happening. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma. Now let's get right into this thing, baby. Now this is an article right here from NOLA.com. Shout out to them. This is an analysis talking about Cam Jordan's season and show why he won't give the Saints a discount on his contract again. Now, I'm on the record saying that I think Cam does give the Saints a bit of a discount. It won't be an expensive agreement, but I think it'll be something that Cam could respect and the Saints could respect as well, because Cam Jordan is not going to say, okay, listen, I'm going to go and play for the 49ers or whomever 1 year and then retire a Saint. You see, his goal is to play one more time with this team. So is Double D, Demario Davis. Their mindsets are the same. They want to play an additional year because they like where this team is headed. So if that's the case, leverage in terms of using outside teams to jack up the price, that is not going to happen. So we're looking at a cap-friendly deal. I mean, I'm not talking about the vet minimum, something north of the vet minimum that's responsible, that will be good for the team as well as the players. And that's for both contracts. But anyway, let's see what the writer says right here in this article. Cam Jordan said he needs to talk with his wife, Nikki, before saying, you know, he's playing in 2026. So the boss gave him the thumbs up and said, go get that paper. So I would love to be in full support. The New Orleans Saints defensive end said, she said, you got 100% of support. So it was pretty quick. Yeah, by the end of the season was hardly a question, too, about Cam. After all, he demonstrated he could still produce at a high level after 10.5 sacks in 2025, something the Saints' own brass didn't even expect. The only mystery now is if Cam Jordan and the Saints can hammer out a new contract ahead of next season, as the 36-year-old is set to become a free agent in March. Now, until they don't want me anymore, this is where I always want to be. This is what Cam said. But his resurgence creates an interesting wrinkle for what can be a complicated negotiation between the defensive end and the Saints. a year ago, Jordan did take a pay cut, slightly more than $6 million, but had a bunch of built-in incentives to earn back some of that money if he performed well. But the dynamic is different now, as Jordan's earned over the $2 million off of the incentives alone. Now Jordan's coming back off his best season in over 5 years, right? But he turns 37 in July. The Saints and Cam have weeks to sort out the situation. But in the meantime, it shouldn't be lost that Cam's just put one of the best old guy seasons in NFL history. Let's take a look at what the writer here adds. Shout out to Matt Paris. He says Jordan joined a rare group of defensive ends. There are only 10 instances of a player reaching at least 10 sacks in a season after turning 36 years of age. Since sacks became official in 1982, Cam Jordan became the latest when he brought down Atlanta Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins in the season finale. And these are just a few of the names that he joined by doing that. Number one, Reggie White had 16 sacks in 1998 at the age of 37 for the Green Bay Packers. Reggie White was a beast, a wildebeest. He was a guy that was designed or created by God to play the football position. He was unstoppable. He had just the strength of Reggie White, the agility of Reggie White, his moves. He's smart. He was strong, an internal person. He was a minister, a pastor, believed in God, taught it profusely. But boy, was he something on that. He was unblockable. And in my estimation, the greatest defensive end that ever played football, in my opinion, is the great late Reggie White, the best ever to do it. And he had 16 sacks at the age of 37 for the Packers. That's crazy work. And that same year, Chris Dolman, he did it for the San Francisco 49ers. He had 15 sacks in 1998. That's crazy work. So in the same year, actually four of them did that big time thing for them. That's crazy that it's showing here according to the list. In 1998, 3 guys did that, which was Reggie White, Chris Dolman, Chris Dolman, and Kevin Green. Now those are, if I'm not mistaken, all those guys are Hall of Famers. But Reggie White is ridiculous. Chris Dolman is a guy that doesn't get nearly the accolades that he deserves when you talk about defensive ends. He kind of gets lost in that 90 period when they had a bunch of those guys. But Reggie White, Chris Dolman from the Vikings, this was a terrific player, but he was with the Niners when he pulled that off. I think that was the year the 49ers. Was that the champ? I don't think that was that the championship year? If I'm not mistaken, y'all help me out in the chat. But he had 15 of them in 98. Kevin Green, the former Ram and 49er, had it in 98. So they just was balling. Those guys was cut loose on that San Francisco 49er defense. Then Dolman did it again in 1997. He had 12 sacks for the 49ers. Kevin Green did it again in 1998. I think that might be 97. That's a typo. This time with the Carolina Panthers at the age of 37. Kevin Green was a beast. Julius Peppers, at the age of 38, had 11 in 2017. Reggie White did it again in they got 1998 with the Packers. I think that's you got to check his numbers. I think that might be 97 or something like that. We'll see. 97 or 96 when he was with the Green Bay Packers. He couldn't have done it twice in the same year. But Cam Jordan, 10.5 sacks in 2025 at the age of 36. Too Tall Jones had 10 in 1987 for the Cowboys. And the great Bruce Smith, the fantastic all-world Buffalo Bill, and later on Washington Redskin defensive end in the year 2000 had 10 sacks as well. He's also another great to talk about. But nonetheless, when you mention Cam Jordan with names like Reggie White, Chris Dolman, Julius Peppers, Kevin Green, Bruce Smith, Too Tall Jones, that's legendary territory. We know Cam going in the Hall, man. Once he hangs him up next year, 5 years from there, you can start getting Cam fitted for a brown jersey or beige or whatever you want to call it. But that's terrific. Now, that's 7 players, total of 5 of whom in the Hall of Fame. Only Jordan, who is still active, and Jones aren't. Too Tall's not in there. But Jordan became the first defender north of 36 to record double-digit sacks since Peppers did it in 2017. There are only 25 defensive players total to log a snap in that span, let alone a sack. So chalk it up to Cam Jordan and everything that he did. Now, his breakout was truly unexpected. Jordan loves to say that he knew he was still capable of putting those together such a season. Often noted that all he needed was an opportunity. In those remarks, he usually throw a pot shot or two toward former Saints defensive line. Yeah, he always zinging Ty Grantham for being one he felt limited in his usage. But Jordan had 2 sacks in 2023, 4 in 24, and the productivity or lack thereof was hard to ignore. Didn't we expect 10.5 sacks from him? General Manager Mickey Loomis said, no, I wouldn't say that. But I mean, no, I wouldn't say that. Well, we expected that. I'm excited for him. But then again, I expected them. That's why I gave him the money. That's why I'm the great Mickey Loomis. That's why I gave him the money. That's why I gave him the money. Well, hell yeah, I knew it. Now. Now, Jordan's 6.5 sack jump from his prior year is one of the biggest ever when factoring his age. The last player who was at least 36 years age to see an increase of at least 6 sacks from the year prior was Hall of Famer Michael Strahan back in 2007. Strahan recorded 9 sacks after totaling 3 in 2006. But Strahan's case, the defensive production was cut short at 35 because of a broken foot that limited him to just 9 games. There weren't many questions over Strahan's play when healthy. Jordan, on the other hand, had missed a game since 2022 and has been remarkably durable during his career, even while battling through some significant ailments. He'll note part of his down 2020 season was due to a foot injury that required off-season surgery. Still, when players reach double-digit sacks, they have typically been playing at a high level. Now, the Peppers, for instance, put together a respectable 7.5 sack campaign in 2016 before finishing with 11 sacks at the age of 37 back in 2017. Jordan appears to be one of those rare expectations, which makes it remarkable. Still productive despite rotational role. This is what might be most impressive regarding Jordan's turnaround. I did it while playing a rotational role. The stat sheet will show that Jordan started all 17 games, but once Chase Young returned from a calf injury, that sidelined him the first 5 weeks. Jordan then went to playing less than half of his defensive snaps in those 8 games played between week 7 and week 15. Now, obviously, when you start balling it down, the rotational role made Cam fresh. That was the thing that really started happening when Chase Young came back. And not just Chase Young, you started seeing Coach Staley utilize different guys. You start seeing them throw Jonah Williams in there. You start seeing them use Bullard more in there. You start seeing them Shepard, and just moving around different areas. But Jonah Williams was in there. Chris Rump II was thrown in there along with Chase Young. So he had a rotation of defensive end and not just ends, but defensive linemen, period. Great rotation that kept these guys fresh. And that definitely helped Cam kick in the overdrive and fire off on all full cylinders when he was healthy, because he was refreshing, not worn down. In that span, Jordan recorded 4 sacks. What really kicked it off, he had multiple sacks in back-to-back games that really kind of just kicked it to the next level. In that span, Jordan recorded 4 sacks. Then he recorded 4 sacks in his last 3 games when he played time, when his play time increased, but still never cracked above 60%. The Saints have tended to limit Jordan's snaps as he's gotten older to keep him fresh throughout the season, which worked this year. In all, Jordan played 53.6% of his snaps in 2025. All of the 17 players to have at least 10 sacks this past year, according to StatHead, Jordan had the 3rd smallest percentage of playing time, ahead of only Arizona's Josh Sweat, who had 12 sacks at 47.1%. In Detroit, Arizona's Josh Sweat, who had 12 sacks at 47.1%. In Detroit's El Kadeem Muhammad, who had 11 sacks at 41.4%. And El Kadeem Muhammad was a guy that the Saints drafted. He went to Indianapolis and then ultimately went to Detroit, where he's familiar with Coach Campbell up there. But El Kadeem Muhammad was a guy the Saints picked up later on in the draft. It's good to see they were right on him. Since 2012, when StatHead began tracking player snap counts, Jordan's 590 snaps were the 17th fewest out of the 257 instances in which a player recorded at least 10 sacks in a season. The Saints have done nothing but show that they want me to be here. Jordan said, now at what price? Some would say half last year. I can't do that again. So there you go with that. We're not, and the thing is, like I said, I'm not expecting Cam to take a cheap deal. That's not what's going on. I really do think it could be a mutual situation where Cam Jordan gets some good money to remain with the New Orleans Saints, but at the same time, it's respectable for the Saints. Because remember, the Saints are going to retool the offense, but you have a quarterback. There are pieces, the bookends. We'll get into that. But with the wide receiver room loaded and littered with talent, you can add some more guys to it. I think they got like 11 guys in the wide receiver room right now. That'll be looking really interesting for this upcoming season. But the running back room, all this other stuff, the offensive line needs some depth and needs a starter or two. I said two of them at the guard position, a guy that pushes Cesar Ruiz, this sort of thing. But that is true. You know, both him and Demario Davis should be given deals that are respectable to them and both the Saints. And I think that'll be a mutual pairing because either one of those players do not, I quote again, do not want to go anywhere, right? All right, let's move on, man, to this next thing right here, right? Tyler Shough is named the finalist for the NFL Rookie of the Year. He's named finalist for the NFL Rookie of the Year, and that the supporters can vote for the Saints quarterback through Friday, January the 30th. So coming up real soon, in maybe a couple of weeks or so, we'll have an opportunity to vote for Tyler Shough. When that happens, man, I'm going to share the links and all that. We're going to try to get Tyler Shough in there as the NFL Rookie of the Year. Now, you know, the good thing about it is the quarterback's the diva position. It gets a lot of the attention. A lot of people believe Ted McMillan was the winner of this honor, will be the winner of the honor because of the fantastic year he's had, and he really has. But we'll see how the voting goes. The New Orleans Saints website announced this, that Tyler Shough was named one of 6 finalists for the 2025 NFL Rookie of the Year award, which you can vote at www.nfl.com/rookies through the end of the voting period of January the 30th. Okay, so it doesn't start then. You can start voting now and then it ends. So you can start voting now. So NFL.com/rookies. So get your vote in right now. All right, good, up until January the 30th. So Rookie of the Year candidate, man. Let's get Tyler Shough in there. Now, he completed his rookie season, recording the highest percentage among all rookies at 67.6, which was 221 out of 337. 221 out of 337, almost a 60. They say 67 points. That's a 68, almost a 68. I'm rounding up. A 68% completion rating, which is just insane. And it was even higher on third downs. He had the second most passing yards, over 2,300, and second highest passer rating of 91.3 among the rookies. Shough broke the Saints franchise record for the most passing yards, passing touchdowns, and completion percentage by a rookie. That's big. In week 17, Shough became the second rookie ever with a completion percentage of 80 or higher, 81.5, and at least 300 passing yards and a passer rating of 140 or higher, which was 142.7 in a single game, joining Bo Nix, who did it the year before, and January the 5th of 2025 with Denver. So this is the thing. Bo Nix, extremely accurate. And what they share is that long line of being in college for like 7 years, because Bo Nix went all the way till he couldn't go anymore to refine his game, to work on his accuracy, you know, because I remember him at Auburn, and then he went up to Oregon, and that really went to the next level. So it's like going through QB school in college. Like you have several years of working and all this kind of stuff. Your body develops, your mind develops, as opposed to the 4-year plan. Even though you might not have, Tyler wasn't playing all those 7 years. He played in the final year. Bo Nix was doing a lot of the playing for the time that he was in there. So he came in extremely ready to step in there and run an offense. I mean, it really showed some positive. But outside of that, Also was nominated for the award include the Giants quarterback Jackson Dart. So is another quarterback there. The Giants Jackson Dart is nominated. New England Patriots running back Travion Henderson is nominated. Los Angeles Raiders running back Ashton Genty is nominated. Carolina Panthers wide receiver Ted McMillan and Cleveland Brown linebacker Carson Swessinger are all players. All of them had fantastic seasons, to be honest with you. This is going to be a tough ballot, but a lot of people have Ted McMillan leading, followed by Tyler Shuck. But with all that we said about what he did and how he did it, man, listen, I'm just hoping that we take it home, and we can help it going on and make sure he gets it by going to NFL.com/rookies and vote for our guy, the Shuckinator, Shuck Norris, Shuck Barkley, whatever you won't call it, that's what it is. NFL.com/rookies. Vote now, vote today. All right. Anyway, let's keep it moving, man, and hit this article up next. Shout out to the Canal Street Chronicles, man, of the New Orleans Saints 2025 draft class and review, the breakdown of each of the selections of the rookie campaign. A really good article. Shout out to Jason Watson, who did a pretty good job of putting this thing together. With the end of the season, he kind of ranked out and gave grades, or not relatively grades, but gave a good breakdown of how each one of our players did, like a summary of how the 2025 class ended. And remember, we got a lot of value. It was 9 draft picks, and the Saints signed all of them. And all of them at some point got an opportunity to contribute to the team because of injuries or otherwise, right? So here's his breakdown of them as we take a look here. So let me put it on the big screen there. Kelvin Banks Jr. kicks it off. Round 1, pick number 9, tackle from Texas. Saints' first selection of the draft last offseason, provided a valuable and worthy pick, although a safe option. New Orleans has been through a rotating door with offensive linemen, especially tackles, over the last 5 years. Following the departure of Teron Armstead in 2021 and the retirement of Ryan Ramczyk, the Saints were in desperate need of dependable blindside blocker help. Kelvin Banks Jr. answered the bell, and then some. He managed to play over 1,000 snaps this year and started every game for New Orleans. He certainly has a bright future ahead in the league. Kelvin Banks Jr. was awesome, right? He wasn't perfect, but he was awesome. He was a guy that really impressed at the position, and he deserved a lot of credit for what he did. Now, he did get beat a couple of times, but that's a rookie. But I do like his temperament. I love the pairing of Kelvin Banks Jr. and Tali Fuaga. I think now we need to situate and get the guard situation resolved and the depth situation taken care of as well. But Kelvin Banks was awesome. And then we get to the Shuckinator, right? The Shuckinator, after, a second round pick, 40, from out of Louisville, a competitive position battle that lasted through training camp and preseason. Spencer Rattler was ultimately named the starting quarterback. Although a best effort was put forward, he was unable to muster any momentum or bring juice to an otherwise lifeless New Orleans offense. The keys were turned over to the rookie backup QB in the third quarter of Week 8's game against the Buccaneers, and Shuck never looked back. He would go to finish the season with over 2,300 yards, 10 touchdowns against 6 interceptions, and Shuck added another 186 yards and 3 running touchdowns on the ground, and gave the Who Dat Nation a chance to be confident in a quarterback once more. Can't say enough about it, especially when it's a quarterback. Remember, Tyler's 26 years old. He's mature, and he has the keys to the bus going forward. This is what the Saints believe, we believe, and let's see what we can build around him and see how far we could take this thing. Next pick, Vernon Brockton. Remember the raw defensive lineman they picked up from Texas in rounds 3, number 71. Unfortunately for Brockton, the rookie season came to a close much sooner than he or anyone else likely anticipated. After making his debut in New Orleans, Weeks 2 loss to the Niners, the rookie defensive end landed on the IR after a significant hip injury. He will not see the field again, but should be a favorite to make an impact along the Saints front seven next year. Better believe it. Brian Bursey and Vernon Brockton will have definitely impact. Can't wait to see him get back to it next year. And with Cam and all these other guys along the line, man, let's keep this thing going along. Jonas Sanker, he was another of the third round picks, number 93, a safety from Virginia. Remember, I was advocating for Xavier Watts, who had a really good year too, but I'm not mad at Sanker. Rookie defensive back from Virginia may be the gem of the draft for the Saints after projected starting safety Tyrann Mathieu retired before the start of the season. Injuries derailed the beginning of Justin Reed's year, and Sanker saw the field early and often in his career. Although thrown into the fire, Sanker held his own in coverage under the Coach Staley's defensive scheme. He would finish the season with 80 tackles, a fumble recovery, 2 picks, 6 pass defense, and the family members should expect to see a lot more of Jonas Sanker in 2026. Love his play this year. Okay, now to our 2 4th-round picks. Danny Stutzman, the running back who was picked up in round 4, pick 112. Although many may have expected a larger role from Stutzman in year 1, the rookie linebacker found himself on the sideline more often than not, thanks in large part to a crowded depth chart. The retention of Werner and New Orleans certainly took potential snaps away from Stutzman, but he should see an expanded role in 2026. He finished with 53 tackles and basically like a co-star role. He was a co-star with Pete Werner. And that pairing was really intelligent by Coach Staley, because y'all notice that Pete Werner didn't get hurt. They did not overuse Pete Werner. They matched his snaps and his reps with Danny Stutzman, and he still was able to produce 70-plus tackle, him being Pete Werner. Stutzman got 53. Werner had over 70 of them. So it wasn't a situation where Werner got hurt. Think about that, because he was a guy that had some injury issues early on. By mixing the pairing like they did, you've seen both of them kind of excel, which was really excellent, because sooner or later when Demario Davis does retire, you expect then Stutzman to step in, and he'll have a good idea how to operate with that defense. Stutzman looked real good this year. Quincy Riley, round 4, pick 131 out of Louisville. New Orleans made Riley the last of the 4 consecutive defensive selections. The rookie corner carved out a nice niche for himself as the nickelback corner of the Saints. He closed the 2025 season with 35 tackles, 1 forced fumble and a pick. He defended 10 passes this year while contributing to what would have been a top 10 defense that would finish in the top 10 in this league. If Alontae Taylor is not on the roster next season, family members should feel comfortable with Riley stepping to fill in the void. We've seen a lot of Alontae Taylor at the nickel spot. You're seeing at times, you're seeing Quincy Riley play that outside spot, and he did really well. Like one of my favorite plays from Quincy Riley, because he's not a gambling cornerback, he's a smart one. Remember, there was the play against the Panthers where the ball was thrown to Ted McMillan, and he grabbed the ball, and Quincy Riley punched it, just hit the ball. He didn't hit nothing else, just punched the ball clean out of his hands and saved the touchdown. That ultimately, later on, we went on to beat the Carolina Panthers to sweep on the season. But he had several outstanding plays during the season for Quincy Riley. Really smart cornerback, physical, good tackler. He's only going to improve for us going forward. And the reality, too, is, remember, he finally got going after they pulled Isaac Yiadom out of there. We'll see what they do with Isaac Yiadom. Yiadom might be a guy that they release to kind of save some money and go in a different direction, because even if Alontae Taylor is not coming back, or even though we'll see with the market, because obviously I think he'll be priced out of what the Saints are willing to pay for him. But if they do still have Isaac Yiadom there, and they could pivot from Isaac Yiadom and go in a different direction, to be honest with you, because I think they'll restructure his deal too. He'll be one of many of the players the Saints restructure. All right, let's go to the 6th-round pick, the lone 6th-round pick, Mr. Devin Neal. 184, the running back out of Kansas. After starting the year as the RB3 on the depth chart, Neal will go on to play in 10 games in his rookie year following an injury to the tailback, Kendre Miller, in week number 7. Neal would take a larger role with the Saints offense behind AK-41, and Neal would tally up over 200 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground, while adding over 100 of them in 17 catches before being placed on IR and appearing in the last game back in week 10. So It was a kind of a mixed year, but what I seen from Devin Neal, I was happy for. You see, I think he's a guy that you mix in and keep there over time. But I do appreciate Devin Neal's contribution this year. Going to look forward to what he does in 26. Now here's Matavo, the huge tight end prospect the Saints picked up round 7, 248 out of UCLA. Quiet season after spending much of the time on the practice squad. The 6'6" tight end really never got a chance to break into the offense. I thought he was 6'8" and be utilized efficiently. Starting tight end Juwan Johnson had a career season and did not relinquish any targets to players behind him. That, of course, did not stop Maliki from earning his first 2 career receptions and picking up 10 total yards. So he got in there in the last month or so in the season, but he was always a playoffs. Like, where's Matavo? Just get him in there when you've seen Jack Stahl get hurt. You've seen Foster Moreau get hurt. That kind of opened the door for Matavo, and he was in there blocking. He caught a few passes with his hands. He's a big target. That move actually pretty good for a big tight end like himself. We'll be interested to see a large tight end like him and Tyler Shuck continue to develop and have those guys moving around out there on the field. We'll see. And then the final of the 7th round picks in 254, edge rushers from Syracuse, Fadil Diggs. Like Matavo, New Orleans' final draft selection of the class, Fadil Diggs spent significant time as a member of the practice squad this season. Diggs had a strong showing during the preseason, but ultimately was left off the Saints roster this year. While it will not be clear until late in the upcoming offseason, I would like to expect Fadil Diggs to make a push once more for being named to the roster this summer. Now, that all depends on the vision the Saints have for Chris Rump II. Because remember, before Fadil Diggs Fadil Diggs was at a line-for-line battle in preseason with Chris Rump II. Y'all remember that? Put one in the chat if y'all remember that. That's how close it came down to the wire because Fadil Diggs was balling in preseason. And it was between him and Chris Rump II, and Chris Rump beat him out because of the veteran experience. Does that happen again for this upcoming season? Now, Chris Rump II is an unrestricted free agent. He's not, the Saints might look at bringing him back at a cheaper rate, well, not a cheaper rate because his contract was already cheap, but they can also elect to bring him back or simply pivot to Fadil Diggs, the 7th round pick, and give him more opportunities. But when you look at guys like Bullard, Jonah Williams, and not Fadil Diggs, that's Chris Rump II, guys that had a impact on plays like Chris Rump II with pressure. He had a couple of sacks this season. Jonah Williams had 5 sacks for the Saints in a reserve role. And then, then you've seen guys like Bullard who kind of, who played so well. They moved Divine Gaccio out of the starting line. You had Nate Shepard, you had Bullard in there, Brian Bersee, and they moved Divine Gaccio out of there because his play dropped. And he is another guy the Saints have to get back together and find out what's going on with him. He hasn't stepped the hell up. He had a rotten year. But outside of that, this is the class, and these guys performed admirably, man. In the chat, fam, y'all give me, I got the question, pardon me, I meant to tell y'all, man. In the chat, there's a poll question up of how would you rate the Saints 2025 class. You see the options there. Go ahead and make your pickings on that. Put it in the chat. Let me know how you guys feel about the 2025 class. Give it a grade. How do you feel about those players? Shout out to Saints Wire. Signed a 6'6" defensive end from after the Jags and the Bengals had him in as a player. And this is actually a player from Shreveport that the Saints are bringing in to help improve upon the defensive line. So the Saints announced an intriguing depth move on Wednesday. The teams are out of the playoffs, have the opportunity to sign guys who did not finish the 2025 season on active roster to reserve future deals for the upcoming year. So on Wednesday, the Saints announced that they have signed former Jacksonville Jaguar and Cincinnati pass rusher Miles Cole to a futures reserve deal. Mickey Loomis, I know. He said that the club has signed defensive end Miles Cole to a reserve futures contract, the Saints announced. Now, Miles is 6'6", or almost 280 pounds, and was selected in the seventh round of that draft, and the 236 overall out of the 2024 draft by the Jags out of Texas Tech. Now, as a rookie, appeared in 8 games, added 8 stops, 4 solo, and a tackle for a loss this past year. He spent 7 weeks on the practice squad with the Bengals after spending training camp with the Jaguars. So the Saints made a move with some upsides here. In 6 college season at Louisiana Monroe back in 2018 and 21, in Texas Tech 22 to 23, he played 58 total games, recorded 86 tackles. 43 of them was solo, 5 sacks, 12 stops for a loss, and 1 block kicked. His most productive season came with the Red Raiders as a super senior in 2023, starting all 12 appearances at the edge rush position, had 32 stops, 3.5 sacks, and 6 tackles for a loss. This is the type of move the Saints should be making at this time of the year. It's an all upside and pretty much no downside. Reserve future deals are cheap and give the team a chance to get a head start. And looking at some depth options for the following season. So Cole fits the description. He played in 8 games in 24 with the Jags, and in 25 he spent time with Jacksonville before the campaign on the Bengals practice squad. In his final year at college, he had 3.5 sacks, 6.5 tackles for a loss, and is 6'6", and at least gives the Saints another pass rush option to take a look at, which is important with both Cam and Demario Davis facing free agency. Now, this is it's like I said, this is one of the moves where it's an enticing move. Remember, the Saints also did a wonderful job in picking up the big wide receiver Moose, who had the Canadian leanings. The kid, he's a very big wide receiver. So you got a 6'5" wide receiver that you picked up with a reserve rights deal, and now you get a 6'6" defensive end. Now, what's interesting about the Saints in this situation is the fact that they're being active and moving and finding talent where they could, even though the season is over with. You evaluate and you keep moving ahead to see if you can find. Now, this is an athletic 6'6" guy. A lot of our defensive edge rushers are 6'5", like Carl Granderson, Chase Young, 6'5", Cam is 6'4", and you have other guys in there that are at least 6'3" or 6'4". So having a 6'6" defensive end to move around in Coach Staley's system could be a positive. So we have to develop him. He has some experience. He played in a few games here or there over the since he's been in the NFL, but it's pretty much a raw defensive end with talent. I was looking at some film on him. A big guy that can move. He's not super jumping off the tape, but you can imagine what could be done if he can kind of crack the reserve lineup for in training camp, so Coach Staley can utilize his speed and his size. A 6'6" defensive end, I think, is the tallest guy we have right now on the team. So he has to crack the reserve lineup and get in there and have an impact there. And it's going to be some competition there, because I do think the Saints are going to more than likely re-sign guys. I could see them re-signing a few guys. I talked about that on the previous stream, that should come back, that earned the right to have an opportunity to come back to the team. Jonah Williams was another guy who really played beyond his money. We've seen Chris Rump II have a solid year. A Bullard, people like that earned a contract that should come back to the team. You see what I'm saying? Those veterans were really instrumental in the reserve role for the Saints defense and should be considered for a contract extension or, a re-sign moreover. But shout out to this brother and appreciate him for being on the team. He'll see what he can do going forward. But it's pretty cool to see that. Now let's move on, fam. We got another one right here for the fam. Y'all hit that like button as we get going. Examining the Saints wide receiver room, including the forgotten trade pickup. So shout out to Yard Barker with this one here. And this is pretty much, an article in which the Saints, we're going to go into looking at the wide receiver room. Fam, I've said it during the year, and let me see if you guys would agree with me, that the defense, to me, was a little bit ahead in terms of development than our offense, right? Like, for instance, we seen Coach Staley. He was very proactive in asking for personnel, being granted personnel, getting players, right? Getting players, getting them in and getting them acclimated to what he want them to do, right? We've seen that. We've seen him bring in Chris Rump II. We've seen him bring in Bullard. We've seen him bring in Jonah Williams. You see what I'm saying? We also seen them add talent through the draft. Vernon Brockton, who got hurt, but he'll be back. Danny Stutzman, Jonas Sanker. We've seen all that. And, of course, a lot of them hit. We did see Isaac Yiadom get signed to a 3-year deal after we couldn't get the guy we wanted. But we got Quincy Riley, who we knew eventually would supplant him in that lineup in the secondary, in which he did. So that happened. We also got Julian Blackman, who should be signed to a cheap deal to come back again after he started off real good. Knockdown, drag out safety. Love to have him backing up Sanker, right? Unless we go in a different direction with the draft picks. But outside of that, man, we've seen those type of players perform admirably. So the defense had a lot of resources. And then later on, when the season started to start, in between the start of the week 1 at the end of the preseason, the end of the preseason and between the trade deadline, that's when you seen the offense got going. Kellen Moore started signing people. We started seeing that later on. Then you started seeing him trade for Divine Valley. Then you start seeing him trade for Jalen Polk. Then you start seeing him trade for Asim Richards. We seen him pick Xavier Truss up off the waiver wire. You see what I'm saying? Then you started seeing the Saints started making moves, them trading Rashid Shaheed, getting him on out. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately getting rid of Cooks, paying him off to get out of here if we were well out of the hunt for the playoffs. That sort of thing. Right? We've seen that occur. But the bottom line is, when you as a team, you have to be able to move a little faster. And we've seen them make some moves, but the whole time around, most people they were ahead of the game. Like, you have some of your internet service providers can watch the football game and my feed will be ahead of your feed. You see? Some people are quicker to the punch than others. And if you look at what the Saints was doing, to be honest with you, they just wasn't close to that punch. It got better later on. But if some of these moves were made early, like if we would have got rid of Brandon Cooks a lot early, like before the season started, like getting rid of him at preseason, if you get Divine Valley and putting him in place and seeing what Divine Valley can do right away because you surrendered the capital for him, then that would have maybe changed some things. I know the chemistry, could have done some stuff like that and all this sort of thing. Things could have kind of been a little faster. So you can't change the game. All you can do is learn from it. So understanding what the team is, what we're trying to do and all this kind of stuff, all that changed over time because the quarterback, the offense got better. The offensive play caller got better. He found out which plays not to call because he was talking to his players. He's talking to his quarterback, and plays that they like to run. They started running the stuff they like to run that works really well with the offense. And you start seeing them adopt a lot of this stuff, and you started seeing the offense galvanize and running. You see, it ain't so much just dialing up an order and then they run it or fulfill it like automatons. Those guys have to have an emotional attachment to some of this stuff that they're doing, because some of the better plays they feel comfortable with, you want to run that stuff more than you do the stuff they don't. I mean, that's just common sense. You won't find that information out unless you talk to the actual players that are running the plays that you are calling. And you started seeing that happen toward the back of the year. Even Cam Jordan spoke about that when he did the podcast, speaking to Tyler Shuck on it. He kind of talked about that and broke that part of the game down. You see? So that's always been a key to success. When you as the head coach can go to the quarterback, let's say in this scenario, it's the quarterback, your quarterback that you chose in the draft, and get insight from him, then you give him, and then y'all work together on how to wrap this offense around your signal caller so he feels comfortable and then goes out there and executes flawlessly. So that started to happen on the back end, and you would want that to trend forward into the future, into 2026 season. So that a large part of what the wide receiver rooms, all this stuff is going on. You take a look at the Saints wide receiver room, which is in my account, probably the largest room that the Saints have right now. You see, just to be honest with you, the wide receiver room is off the chain. It's littered and loaded with talent, and I don't think they're done adding to it. So let's look into this article right here so I can show you Examine the Saints wide receiver room, including forgotten trade options. This is crazy work, right? It's crazy work. Examine the Saints wide receiver, including forgotten trade pickup. If you're a Saints supporter, and it's easy to have a bit of pep in your step, right? Right now, it comes to the franchise. Tyler Shuck looked like the real deal once he took over the team's starting quarterback position. Kellen Moore showed significant progress from the beginning of his first season as a team head coach. You've seen Kellen not as, smiley and goofy as he was when he first came in. A lot more serene and seriouser. You see what I'm saying? Early on, he was standing there answering all the questions and being more in depth with the media. As you got closer to the back of the year, his answers were more sharper and shorter than what you've seen before. So you can see, if you pay attention to him, a progression from, rookie, clumsy coach into a more serious or serener type of personality at the head coach position. You see? You see that? Now put one in the chat if you've seen that, because I know I did. Now, Kellen Moore showed significant progress from the beginning of the season as the team's head coach to the end. The 2025 NFL draft class looks like a hit in general, and some guys took a step forward in 2025, like Chris Olave and Chase Young. The high-paid veterans, these guys showed up and showed out. Despite finishing 6-11, there are a lot of teams out there that would like to be in that position the Saints are in right now. Look at a team like the Dolphins, for example, that went 7-10. Really, they wasn't supposed to go 7-10. We dropped a touchdown pass that would have won the game at the end, and they should have been 6-11, and we should have been 7-10. For real, they dropped that touchdown. But all out of whack. They fired their head coach, and the quarterback position is up in the air with Tua. Tua needs, it's time for him to go. That was a failed experiment. If Coach McDaniels is not there, they need to find him another one. They will. They're going to find another quarterback. Saints have the momentum and need to use this offseason to add more pieces. Specifically to the offense, the Saints arguably need another high-end receiver and potentially another running back to pair with Alvin Kamara and Devin Neal. Now, a lot of people saying a high-end wide receiver. You got Chris Olave, they're going to pay. His extension is not going to be cheap. It's going to be probably anywhere between, he's going to be making $15 million on that final deal that they picked up on for in his final contract year. He'll make it 15. So whatever he's restructuring or trying to get him to extend rather, it's going to be anywhere between, it's going to be north of 18 million. I estimate anywhere between 19, maybe 18 and a half to $20 million a year. It's going to be somewhere up there. It's going to be between, about 19 to 20 million a year for his services. And it's going to be a 4 or 5 year deal. That makes him a 10-year player for the Saints. That's what it's going to be. So the Saints right now, they've been negotiating, according to reports, for the last 2 months. And the last time we seen Chris Olave, he was like, I've done all I can do. It's in their hands now. That's his stance. He said that. And I was like, oh, wow. The way he said it, I was like, okay, because in his way, he wasn't frustrated, but you could see the sharpness in the term and his energy when he said it. I was like, it's in their hands. I already told y'all what I want. I had my best year. Y'all need to pay up. But the Saints, and think about it like this, the Saints aren't in a rush because they still have Chris Olave under this final year at $15 million. So I guess you could say they're not in a rush right away to sign him now. Like if you would say, we could pivot to go to, we can go to pivot to our safety right here and see if we can get that done with him, Alontae Taylor. So if we can get that done, let's do that because he's unrestricted. So we will see. But the Saints are not going to do that with Alontae Taylor. What they're going to do is allow the market to dictate his value. And if it's somewhere where they want it to be, they'll resign him. But the agent is going to try to get Alontae Taylor as much money as he possibly can. And I have concerns that somebody's going to price him out of our reach. That's what I think. That's what I'm thinking. But the good news on that's the bad news. The good news is the fact that eventually you might see a situation where you'll get a guy at number 8 to fill that slot. whether it's it's Delaney Mansour from LSU, or whether it's Caleb Downs. You'll get a defensive back at number 8 to replace him if that is indeed the case. Or you can get one in the second round of the draft, because there are quite a few of them there. But if you want a quality one that'll be with you for the next 10 years, that'll be a top-notch player, those 2 players in the secondary, if that is the where you want to go with it, would be something interesting just to add on top of that. All right. So he mentioned the Saints arguably need a high-end receiver potential, another running back to pair with Alvin Kamara and Devin Neal. You still have Miller. You still have him here. But all of these running backs, whether they're Kamara, Miller, or Neal, they all had injuries last year. So you're going to have to stock up your depth chart anywhere as far as that's concerned. Alvin Kamara has 1 year left on his deal. So does Miller. So in the end, you don't have long-term prosperity there. And the thing that's interesting to some of the people who say, well, Q, we need to go somewhere else with that number 8 pick if that running back is there. And I'm telling you that next year you won't be picking in the top 10. You won't get the opportunity to get a top 8 back or a top 5. Really, this is the best running back in the draft, hands down. And they have some pretty good running backs in college, but it's a drop between him and the next running back. That's how good this guy is. And he can have just as well of an impact with your team as you've seen Ashton Genty have with the Raiders. He can have that type of impact because he's that type of running back. His skill set's off the chain. You can catch the ball out the backfield. He can block for you if you need him to block. He's smart. He runs inside and outside, has speed and a different level. And he's a solid back. He's a quality back that you want to give Tyler Shuck to take pressure off of him in these situations. So if you have a quality running back and a quarterback that scrambles, the Saints running attack in terms of the statistics is about to go up in the air. Plus you take him now and he can act, and Alvin Kamara can act as a mentor for him in his first year before Alvin is celebrated and off into the sunset as a Saint. You get me? So on the receiver front, they're building blocks in place. Olave is still here. He's the star. Devon Valley was awesome in the time that we seen him in the slot, catching the ball, making them difficult grabs, and just love his game. It's a big physical wide receiver who made some difficult, really tough catches. He was awesome in the time we seen, and adding a veteran playmaker would be huge. They're talking about like Deebo Samuel. That's going to cost you a few bucks, or Marquise Brown type in free agency. Not a tier 1 player, but they're thinking more of a tier 2 player. I seen one of the television people said Jawan Jennings was a guy, he got some injury history though with him, but outside of that, who knows? Now, the Saints are 1 wide receiver away. If the Saints can enter the 2026 season with a receiver room led by Olave, Valley, and Deebo Samuel, that would be a high-powered. Yeah, and Deebo Samuel, didn't he get hurt? The franchise also has another guy with upside already, and Jalen Polk. That's the difference maker right there. Not difference maker, but to me, Jalen Polk is the guy that you need to pay attention to, because the reality is the Saints gave up a 6th round pick to get a 2nd round talent in Jalen Polk. And that move right there that the Saints made during the season was a future move. That was like, man, this guy will be somebody we can use in the future to help us to go to the next level. And that is what that was. And I'm thinking when people are talking about getting a veteran in free agency, they're overlooking Jalen Polk. All you have to do is go look up Jalen Polk's his film. He has some limited film in New England, but if you go look up his college film, he got a ton of college film with him making all kind of spectacular catches, touchdown catches, running good route. Now he don't have a 4.4 in the 40, all this kind of stuff, but the guy looks faster on film than he actually is. He runs quality routes, he blocks, and I love his attitude. from the wide receiver position. We do not have a wide receiver that has the type of temperament that Jalen Polk has. We know Chris Olave. We see what he does. He's super cool. But I'm talking about the tough man stuff that Jalen Polk, how when he catches the ball and, this type of stuff. We hadn't had a receiver with that temperament since Mike Thomas, had that type of temperament. But you can see they didn't, that the Saints acquired him from New England. He didn't play in a game for the franchise last year. He is rehabbing. He's with the team, though. Shuck posted a photo of the two fishing early. So you can see right here that Jalen Polk right here and the Shuckinator out there catching fish. The Shuckinator is is handling business on the football field and on the waterways. So there you go. So Polk is just 23 years old, man. He's right in line. So it's good to see these guys because that's his quarterback. Them fishing together and their reports, rumors, or whatever you want to say, reports that have been put out there about these gentlemen ultimately are going to be already, and some reports are saying that they're working, doing off-season work. What was it? Last year, we seen a couple of people go out to California, or they'll pick a place, they'll follow, or they invite them to come out, and then they'll just run routes and they'll practice and work on chemistry and this sort of thing. That only helps you going into the season because it's giving the wide receiver and the quarterback an opportunity to get used to their tendencies. So that's always a positive benefit when you're doing it outside of the field. So Polk's 23, was a second round pick by the Patriots in 2024, and he had only 12 catches for 87 yards as a rookie, along with the touchdowns in 15 games. Now in the final season in college, he had over 1,100 yards. He had 69 catches to go along with 9 touchdowns. He averaged 17 yards per catch. If the Saints could add another immediate receiver like Samuel, they can all be set. Have Olave run all over the place, Samuel, or another addition as a safety blanket, Valley in the middle of the field and Polk outside. This sounds like an offense with upside. So that's 4 guys. I can see what he's trying to do. I'm looking at 3. He's saying 4 of that wide receiver to the mix. But the Saints wide receiver room is slam packed, jam packed. They got a bunch of guys there, man. Guys that are still here. Now they could very well bring in a veteran. I'm not anticipating them bringing in a veteran that is that's going to cost a lot of money. But we'll see how they act. But if you want to make the jump to win 2 to 3 more games, really, you can go back over the games, the last 9 games that Tyler Shuck played, and there were times where games was left, like the Atlanta game and the Miami game should have been a win, right? We were hurting. We were without players in the final game of the season. There was a drop touchdown pass by Chris Olave in the Miami game. That's 2 wins right there. But when you add talent and you power up your depth and you add another wide receiver, a veteran wide receiver to steady the run, things kind of change for you because isn't it all about the depth? Now you can have talent on top, but when it comes down to it, the bottom line is you got to have depth to kind of fortify this thing. Let me share this with you, fam. This is from our lads. This shows right here the Saints depth chart as it stands. And shout out to FanDuel. Let me just say this, man. FanDuel, the Sports Coma is brought to you by FanDuel for all your latest needs on betting needs, baby. You go on FanDuel, just dial up the app, but go there. You can see the lines and make bets for the NFL. You can see the next round of the playoffs is up. The NBA, college basketball, football with the national championship is coming up next Monday. So all your betting needs, go to FanDuel, baby. The official sponsor of the Coma. Just wanted to throw that at you. And once again, shout out to them. All right, let's keep it going. Going back to this thing. Hit the like button for me, fam. These are some of the wide receivers that we currently have listed right here. Mason Tipton. Okay, we know Chris Olave, Divine Valley. We know about, Jalen Polk. But there's also Mason Tipton, Kevin Austin Jr., Bub Means. Remember him? He got hurt. He'll be back. Pettis is a free agent. We still have Ronnie Bell, Samari Toure, and Trey Palmer. Remember, Trey Palmer was a guy the Saints picked up. He was also hurt. He's a guy, and these are two guys that the Saints picked up that really couldn't help us this year. Having a guy like Palmer and then picking up Jalen Polk was two different things. Now, Palmer is a veteran wide receiver, been in the game. He's about 20, what is it, 20, how old is Palmer? Trey Palmer. He's been in the league for 3 years. He's 24 years of age. He got a year remaining on his contract. So he's in. Trey Palmer's a speed demon. This guy can catch, and he'll burn the secondary deep. He's on the team, right? The Saints also picked up the big wide receiver whose name escapes me right now. Hold on, let me see if I can pull the brother name up right now. Let me see. Let me see if I can pull his name up too. The big wide receiver. We just signed him, man. I forgot his name from the thing. Y'all could put it in the chat, but hold on here. Let me see if I can pull it up here, and y'all can see for yourself. But yeah, we and like I said, a lot of these guys coming off of injury, a lot of them you're looking at and you're saying, well, how could they help us? Can they help us? You know, and some people want to have more of an established product on the field, meaning a wide receiver veteran that can be relied upon if injuries start hitting your room. Because, you know, at some point, we're going to see that. We're going to see injuries hit the room, and the Saints want to be prepared for that sort of thing. So having Jalen Polk and Trey Palmer and all these other guys are a positive. So I'm not mad at them looking at a wide receiver and attempt to say, okay, we need to see about getting us a wide receiver here to kind of work out. Damian Alford. Yeah, Damian Alford, I had to look him up. Yeah, here he is right here. 6'6", 230 pound wide receiver from the University of Utah. I'm sorry. Moose Alford, that's his name. And this is a big wide receiver who the Saints picked up last week. And he also has good speed too. He's not slow. Somebody said he was slow. No, I looked at his 40 tape. He's actually has speed for his size. That's what make it really interesting that the Saints added another big wide receiver to go on over Valley. Like, we had a bunch of small guys, and then there was Divine Valley, who's a big wide receiver. Then you end up getting Damian Alford. Now, we don't know if he'll crack it or not, but we'll be looking at him this offseason because all these other wide receivers are, you know, a lot shorter. He'll be, I think, the biggest wide receiver we have. So he's a 50-50 catch guy. Looks like a big tight end playing the position. Maybe there's some application there. I don't know. But, but if you have an imagination, anything possible. But what I'm showing y'all is I'm attempting to show y'all all of the talent that we have in the wide receiver room and why the wide receiver room is in good shape. Now, like I said, don't get it twisted. They can ultimately bring another veteran wide receiver into the fold to help us because, hey, man, I'm not against that. You know, let me show y'all a list of free agent wide receivers too, so you don't even have to guess about this. This is how easy it is at the Sports Coma. Look at this list right here. This is provided by Over the Cap. These are the 2026 free agents at the wide receiver position. You see the writer astutely mentioned Deebo Samuel. There's this old Mike Evans. Now, some of these guys are going to command a lot of money, right? So you don't want, I don't know if you're aiming at tier one type of guys like, like some of these other wide receivers, like George Pickens, which Dallas is going to look to bring him back because their offense was actually respectable. They get the defense together. They'll start challenging again in the NFC. They get that defense together. They could see some stuff happening. They did make some trades there, but if they can get the right coordinator, man, I think Dallas will be dangerous in the NFC once again. But anyway, Deebo Samuel sits on top. Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, Diami Brown, Tutu Atwell. They see Marquise Brown. Jawan Jennings is listed there. Adam Thielen retired, so he's not going to be in the mix. And then you see the rest of these guys are free agents as well. And remember, there was talk about Keenan. Now all that is gone, but you would think that perhaps one of these wide receivers in the free agent chain could end up being a guy that the Saints ultimately bring in to be looked at. And there's some interesting names that I think will work here. for the Saints. If you was to add a veteran wide receiver to the mix, the guy would have to be a guy I would say that is maybe 6'3", physical wide receiver with a degree of speed that can also run well. I thought at time Marquise Valdez-Scantling, MVS would be that guy. I thought they would have him, but they did not re-sign him. Seattle did. I don't think the Saints will participate in getting these other men. Like, I don't think the Saints will end up like, okay, we're going to get these top level wide receivers. I think they'll go in a different direction and maybe get a tier 2 guy, maybe, Juwan Jennings is not a bad call, depending on how much money he's asking for, but he has an injury history that I'm kind of concerned about. Other guys, who else the other guy was thinking about as well? Man, Kendrick Bourne, but he also, a couple of these 49er former wide receivers have injury concerns you want to watch out for, but who would fit a system like that? So it'd be a couple of guys that you would want to bring in for a look and see what they can do for you, to kind of help out in the top 4 and steady the running back room. And you got them at all different costs, man. I think Romeo Dubes is an interesting player too. He was a productive guy. He had some injury concerns as well. He's a productive guy that can ultimately that can help you. But like I said, it depends on who you're looking at, and we'll see that as we go into the free agent rank. And I don't think the Saints will be participants in getting the tier 1 guys. Maybe the tier 2 guys you could see them picking up and bringing here to try to steady the run, perhaps. Or perhaps the Saints feel good about what they got going on, period, because they got like 11 people. I want to say 11 or 12 wide receivers currently on the team. So they know where what the hell is going on in terms of adding talent to Tyler Shuck. They know that much. I'm going to be honest with you on that. They really know. All right, let's keep it pushing, man. Let's jump to this next article right here. Shout out to NOLA.com. With this one here is called Ranking. The Saints had the NFL's most impactful rookie class, and here's why. Shout out to the writer, Luke Johnson, and he's breaking the game down. New Orleans Saints may have had the most impactful rookie class in the NFL. At least a set of postseason rankings agreed that was the case. Compiling his annual list of rookie classes that produced the most for the teams from ESPN, Aaron Schatz ranked the 2025 Saints crop at the top of the pile. How about that? All right, Schatz is an analytical pioneer who created the DVOA metric for Football Outsiders and now works for FTM Network. He's based his year's rookie rankings on several data points, starting with the Sports Info Solutions total point system, which attempts to assign value to individual players. He then adjusted his rankings based upon positional importance, ESPN tracking data, and his own DVOA formula. What did he come up with? These rankings are meant to organize the draft classes by the impact the rookies had on the team's the year the team had, rather than trying to assess future value or potential, which hurt teams such as the Jags, who only had 7 games out of the number 2 pick, Travis Hunter. New Orleans ranked number 1 on Schatz's list because of its contributions it received from quarterback Tyler Shuck, left tackle Kelvin Banks Jr., its top 2 picks, but also because of several other members of the class contributed in a positive manner. Some other sources backing up Schatz's rankings, the PFR, which is the Pro Football Reference, keeps a proprietary statistic on approximate value, or an AV that attempts to qualify a player's value to a team in a given season, right? This year, Pro Football Reference found 35 players from the 2025 draft class to post an AV of 6 or better. The Saints accounted for 3 of them. Tyler Shuck had 7. Banks had 6. Jonas had 7. The only other teams with 3 or more players to reach that benchmark were the Patriots, who had 4, and the Bears had 3. Each of the 9 players the Saints selected in the 2025 draft appeared in at least one game this season. Though 7-rounders Maliki Matavo and Fadil Diggs spent most of the season on the practice squad, and 3rd-rounder Vernon Brockton missed the final 15 games of the season with a hip injury. Shuck was the gem of the Saints class. for the 2025 season, at least having recently been named a finalist for the NFC's Offensive Rookie of the Year, despite starting 9 games. That's an accomplishment. Let's not forget that part of it. And that would be really and that would really be something just on another level, right? If Tyler Shuck wins the Rookie of the Year honor, just playing 9 games will be crazy work, because Jackson Dart played more games. Cam Ward played more games. Ashton Genty, but you see what I'm saying? Some of these other finalists played more games, but for him to get in there and winning off of 9 games, that's pretty special. Come on. Let's just keep it all the way funky. He didn't have a whole year like Cam Ward did. You see what I'm saying? Or the majority of the year. Jackson Dart got in there a lot sooner than he did. So for him to do that, man, that'll be another accolade that stand on top of all that other stuff, right? He finished second, close second to Giants Jackson Dart, 91.7 in rating. He says 91.7 in QB rate, 91.3, and led all rookie passers in passing yards per game to 16.7, and completion percentage. Man had almost 67% completing the ball as a rookie. That's insane. Most important, Shuck also won 5 of his 9 starts, the only rookie to lead his team to a winning record in stats. It is incredibly difficult and very rare for a rookie quarterback to have a positive win-loss record at the end of the season, because most rookies, that doesn't happen. We talking about Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning was like 1-8, whatever. Well, he lost damn near all of them games. He won like 1 or 2 games in his rookie year. So it's something that rarely happens. And Shuck and Banks, the Saints found 2 foundational players at the premium positions to accelerate their rebuild with the top 2 picks, but they also hit on some defensive starters in day 2 and 3 as well. Now, they're right. You get the quarterback of the future, the franchise quarterback, and Tyler Shuckinator, Shuck, and then you have Kelvin Banks Jr., his blindside tackle. So that works for what you got going on, and for the Saints to make the leap. They just have to focus on the interior of the offensive line and depth, improving upon the skill positions. 1 player for the wide receiver room, maybe another one for the tight end backup room, and some help at the running back position. Maybe getting a fullback or picking up a tight end or a guy that can be a fullback and tight end for you, kind of a hybrid type player. This could be good, but the jump is not. It's not going to be a real bad jump or a lot the Saints could do or need to do to further along the defense. They just need to add a few pieces there, keep it going. They have to really improve the special teams. We found the kicker. You got to find your punter. You got to improve on the secondary side of it. I don't hear anything happen with Phil Galliano about to lose his job. Maybe they'll give him an opportunity to clean it up in year 2. But definitely that has to change. So Sanker played solid football throughout the season after taking over as the starting safety in week 2 following Julian Blackman's season-ending shoulder injury. The 3rd rounder was one of 5 rookies to record at least 80 tackles and 2 interceptions this season. So it was just, Jonas Sanker put on a role. Quincy Riley took over as a starting cornerback after the first quarter of the season, impressed the Saints with his playmaking ability, finishing 4th among NFL rookies in pass defense with 10. He was doing some wonderful stuff. Linebacker Danny Stutzman finished 8th among rookie linebackers and tackles with 53. As a co-starter, Demario Davis and Pete Werner. Pete Werner had like 70 plus tackles, and then they were craftily moving Danny Stutzman in there to pick up play. He had 53 tackles and played only 90% of the Saints' defensive snaps, so they utilized him in a good way. The Saints were of 3 NFC South teams to rank in Shat's top 6, with the Carolina Panthers and Atlanta Falcons checking in at number 5 and 6 spots respectively, and the Buccaneers checked in at 16th. Carolina's Ted McMillan, T-Mac, and Tampa Bay's Emeka Egbuka, both drafted receivers, will at least draw consideration for the Rookie of the Year, and in McMillan's case, probably win it. Atlanta, meanwhile, found three impact defensive players in James Pierce, who had 10.5 sacks. I knew Pierce was going to be good out of the University of Tennessee. I was saying it. Xavier Watts, which I wanted Xavier Watts, them to draft him over Jonas Sanker. He had a rookie high 5 picks. I knew he would be the guy because he was that type of dude with Notre Dame. He was the leader on the back end of that defense. He was getting interceptions in college. It's what he does. And Jelani Walker also was popping for him. So the future is bright from the defense for them. But I'm happy with Jonas Sanker. So he also was, so I'm not mad about the pick. But the Saints draft class, man, they got a lot of this. This was a fantastic draft class. And this is what the Saints are going to build on going forward. The bottom line, you're going to have to replicate what you did from 25 to 26 and continue to keep this thing twisting and turning. That's all you can do. I appreciate y'all for chiming in on this one, man. Also, feel free, man. A shout out to FanDuel, man. Get y'all bets in, man. The NFL playoffs continue. The college football championship, the CFP, for Monday. NBA basketball, all that, man, is available at FanDuel. You can hit the FanDuel up and get your bet in, man. Get it in. FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma with BigQ. So anyway, with that being said, man, listen, shout out to the Patreon champions, the YouTube membership family. Y'all can feel free to check out the links in the description section below if you want to join us on Patreon, patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. Y'all remember that we are doing the news show On Cue with BigQ. We keep it real on news items that is exclusively and only available for our Patreon champions to check that out. And for our YouTube membership family, we also have the TSC Unleashed Patreon stream where TSC Unleashed, where we be breaking it down, mock drafts, player profile breakdowns. All this stuff is going to be going on for the draft. We'll be hitting you with that behind the scenes. We'll be doing film study on college players and all those people. All that'll be available, and dozens of shows of locked content that's available on TSC Patreon. You can simply join the YouTube channel, or you can go to patreon.com/the Pro Media Network to get all of that. We've been doing that for 5 years, 5 years of locked content. That's literally dozens, hundreds of shows that's available behind the scenes. So if you want to support the movement, y'all do that. Go to patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. And every Tuesday at 5:00, On Cue with BigQ is released. We just did a beautiful 1 hour show about the oil war that's currently going on, the impacts to you and your family. We did a part 1 and part 2 of that. Might do a part 3. This stuff going on as well. All that, man, we doing. And also we got some great stuff going on there. TSC Unleashed, on our TSC Unleashed channel. We also have some trending topics that we touching upon as well. A lot of stuff going on in 2026, man. We're just keeping this movement moving. So with that being said, I'm out. Y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed, and I'll holler at y'all on the next one. Much love, peace, and who dat to you, baby.
Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with thehootitdaily.com. Your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit thehootdatdaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below